Lagos Land Use Charge Law has generated a lot of debate since its repeal and re-enactment in 2018. This informed a robust stakeholders forum hosted by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry to provide a basis of engagement between the government and private sector. Giving his opening remarks, the president of the LCCI, Mr. Babatunde Runsawe, commended the Lagos government for its openness to dialogue, but called for the implementation of the law to be put on hold until the grey areas are resolved.
We understand that only 300,000 properties are paying the land use charge. Yet, the number of property identified for tax is in excess of 700,000. Therefore, the emphasis should be on getting more property into the net rather than imposing additional burden on those currently in the database. The state government should take advantage of debates in order to bring more owners into the net. We further request that the implementation of the land use charge be put on hold while the gray areas are being sorted out. As business community, we appreciate what the state government has been doing, especially the investment in infrastructure and security. We are therefore willing and ready to pay our taxes. Indeed, over 90% of the current IGR of over 300 billion generated in the state is coming from the private sector. We appreciate the need to do even more. However, it is only a business that is alive that will pay tax. Therefore, we urge the state government to create a tax environment that is investment friendly. We would like to see a tax regime that is methodical, predictable, fair, equitable, inclusive, and transparent.
The Finance Commissioner, Mr. Akinyemi Ashade, in his presentation said that the Land Use Charge Law was a consolidation of three taxes: the tenement rate, ground rent, and neighborhood improvement.
This law should be commended. Even when it was done in 2001, it was a bold step towards consolidating three taxes: tenement rates, ground rent, and neighborhood improvement levy. Is that good for business? Should we also continue to look at our laws to consolidate taxes and harmonize them? I think the answer from this side should be yes. So, how does this work? Because the real thing is, what we want to do, we want to put this thing in your hand. We want you to be able to sit and calculate what your land use charge should be. You don't have to wait for government to come and serve you bill. And that's what this is all about. So let's talk about different categories, because this is our law. Let's talk about different categories. For owner-occupied residential property, 0.076%, we recognize that we have industries in Lagos. We have manufacturing concerns. And if you look at the rate, it's 0.256. If you have real estate, Lagos has been kind to you. You've come to Lagos, you've invested, you are making profits. So Lagos deserves something in return. Lagos deserves something in return. And what are we asking for? We are saying commercial property used by owner for business purposes is 0.760%. It is not 1%, because in other climes, property taxes can be as high as 2%. Residential property, where you are occupying that property and you are renting part of it out, is 0.256. It's quite discriminatory. It is not one cap fit all. You can see the comparison. Some rates never moved. If you're a pensioner, you don't have heard people said it's Lagos State pensioner alone. That's not correct. Pensioner, wherever it is, whether you can prove it, come forward. It's 0% if you live in your own house. Lagos state government properties, 0. Owner occupied, that is the rate of movements from old rates to new rates. And you can see this. It's been well thought through. We didn't just wake up and do this. 75% of property owners in Lagos will be paying 5,000 per annum on their properties. If you pay early, you enjoy 15% discount. So this tax, as a progressive tax regime, we are focused. And the House of Assembly has said for people with 10 million and below is 5,000 naira. And that is 75%. And government is kindly just pay us 5,000, 75% of property owners in our database so that we can share between local government and state government. That's what we're asking for. The reliefs, pensioners above 60 years, you don't need to pay anything on your property if you are staying there. If you are persons aged 60 years and above, there's a further 10% relief. What that means is that if you have enjoyed 40%, you can enjoy additional 10%, which is 50. For early payment, you can enjoy additional 15%. That is 65% off. People living with disability, they also enjoy 5% additional. Religious body, we've not burdened them. If you are a religious body registered under that religious body and using that property, you will not pay. If you have gone to rent a property, the rent, this law is on property owner. Somebody has rented that property to you to use. We will serve the owner, and the owner will pay. Because as far as we are concerned, it is on property owners.
The organized private sector, represented by Mr. Timothy Olawale, as part of its recommendation, said that any increase in land use charge above 100% was unacceptable.
Nobody ever contested the rights of government to exercise the right of review. If government has chosen over the years not to review the applicable law as provided for, it has nobody to blame but itself. This government's negligence should therefore not be visited on the residents through astronomical review of the land use charge. We therefore do not agree with government's enormous review based on reasons which includes the following. Number one, 2 basic variables for determining residents' liability under this law have been reviewed upward. Yes, I listened to the commissioner. The base wage of the property owner, whereas the income of Nigerians in the past 5 years, salaries and rental income alike, has been bastardized by inflation rates. The second is the assessed value of the property, which has also been reviewed upwardly by over 500%. The action of reviewing these 2 variables upward at the same time is callous, is insensitive, and very inconsiderate. Application of the land use charge to vacant lands is also another insensitive issue. These are developmental lands that have not yielded income to the owners. We therefore cannot understand the rationale for levying land use charge on such property. There are several other abhorrent provisions in the law on penalties for default. Some have been highlighted by the president of LCCI. That is when you fail to pay within the period specified in the demand notice. There is also the provision for government to appoint a temporary receiver or manager to administer the property where the land use charge demand notice is not settled after 135 days of the taxpayer's receipt of the demand notice, until all outstanding taxes or penalties and administrative charges are paid. The increase of applicable rate from 0.394 to 0.761% is also another sore point. Then there is also the demand, because provisions were made for appeal, which is good, but there is a clause there that demands an outrageous 50% of the charge into Lagos State government account, even when you have challenged the levy. I think this is preemptive of the outcome of the arbitration and the tribunal, because there is also the provision that the tribunal could annul the bill. So what happens when the bill is annulled or the charge? What happens to your 50%? Anyway, we will not only raise problems, we will provide solutions. And we will recommend as thus. Let us say and establish as a matter of fact that the OPS is not averse to an increase in land use charge, because we do realize that government has been negligent in the past by not following the provision that allows to review every 5 years. But in welcoming the review of the law, any increase above 100%, which actually amounts to doubling the current rate, is not acceptable. In fact, I have a bill here which is verifiable, so that you don't assume I'm speaking based on conjecture. This is a commercial property that paid $420,000 last year, and is being asked to pay $5.8 million this year. And wait for it. This is 1,279% increase. So it's not just a matter of conjecture. The rate for last year is here. The rate for this year is also here. For comparison, I just brought this as a very practical example that is verifiable. 1,279% increase. Must the vision of a smart or mega city not be synchronized with the comfort and the prosperity of the people? We will not question the use of assessed value, but we want government to use a stakeholders forum, which will include professionals in this field, to determine the variables which will be used in arriving at acceptable goal. This is what should have been done before. Consultation should have preceded legislation. Executive said they consulted widely with stakeholders, but the Honorable Commissioner came short of mentioning those stakeholders that were consulted with. Even at that, just as is done in other clients, we will still expect the agreed market value to be discounted by not less than 50%. And finally, there is something to learn from how a similar uproar about land use charge was resolved in 2002. It was not resolved by government's insistence on its position, or government ramming down its views down the throats of residents, but it was resolved through social dialogue and compromised outcome. We therefore hope this administration will learn from this historical perspective. We, as the OPS, we are always open to dialogue and further engagement on this matter.
For the Finance Commissioner, it was an opportunity to engage the private sector to the law, and said government was ready to consult further on the implementation of the law.
We are listening governments. The rates we've explained and will continue to explain that using rates and using percentages may be misleading and in fact can mislead. However, where genuine concerns are there, we are ready to engage, and the feedbacks and the thing that we have now to be able to proceed going forward.
A clear expectation from the organized private sector and Lagosians in general is that the government will take into consideration the socio-economic situation in the country and review the land use charge law to reflect an inclusive tax system.